Hi guys, today we'll look into a scenario in which the 34 countries of NATO disappear. Which is crazy, they all just disappeared. And you know where we're going to start at? Current events. Russia versus Ukraine. How would it affect it? Well, the main factor would be no American weapons. So they would start losing ground. Slowly, with Russian forces gaining the advantage. Because let's assume all American stuff in Ukraine disappeared along with America. Yeah, and NATO, so that's about 90 million. So they move in from all fronts slowly to the resistance of Ukraine. After months of fighting, they make it to here. But they're still being held back by the country's willingness to fight. But not as well as they were before American weapons leave, and Kiev gets stolen. Yeah, and then they push over towards Moldova. To gain a foothold in this war, they basically decide to invade Moldova. But no one's stopping them, because who would besides Japan and South Korea? Yeah, and so they push up. The country with 44 million people is falling to pieces. Yeah. And also, there was a full mobilization happen. And well, I guess all the Russians that fled drowned. That's sad. And they annex this. But they're not the only one to take advantage of the situation. No. They don't just take advantage of the situation. They annex lands. They even annex Belarus. And look, Kaliningrad is an island. And yeah, they took back all of Ukraine and basically stated there's a new Soviet Union. But can they really be a Soviet Union? No, because the Baltics are dead. That's sad. So this is what Europe looks like now. It looks pretty bad. But it's not just Europe we're talking about. We're talking about the world. Yes, the world. I mean, like Finland and Sweden is in trouble. They basically started a policy of appeasement to Russia. Because what are they going to be able to do? At least some nations can't be affected by this. Imagine being like all of these nations. Basically everyone. And we shift our attention to the Balkans, where the Third Balkan War breaks out. Yeah. Between Serbia and everyone. Because they 1v2 everyone. Yeah. They brawl with two nations. With strongness. Yeah. Quickly after, well, they start their invasion of Bosnia. Not long after, they start an invasion of Kosovo. They go super successful in the Kosovo. Our campaign in Bosnia is now on full fledged, and they push in the Srpska with no resistance, and then they push towards Sarajevo, taking it. Yeah, and then they do this. And then they kind of get all the war victories. And yeah, their victories are showable. Because now there's a Yugoslav Republic, a second Yugoslav Republic, which is crazy. Well, now we shift our attention to Asia, where someone takes advantage of the situation to do many things. China declares war on Taiwan. And this is the first major conflict. The Quad gets involved. Which, for those of you who don't know what the Quad is alliance. That's America, so the problem is it's ineffective with Russia joining their war. Which is a shock to the world. Well, this world, at least. But we did get Pakistan joining. And we do see India, Vietnam join. Which China makes no attempts into Vietnam, because we all know how the last time it went. And well, the first ones to be able to make moves were Japan and South Korea pushing north. That's not the right color. That's a dark color. And then they pushed north. North Korea was unexpected for this preparedness of the South. But was it really preparedness? Or is it just strategy? Nobody knows. But North Korea was fully prepared. And then they land in South Korea, China does. With a bloody campaign against the South Korea. Russia lands on Sakhalin and pushes south. With North Korean front collapsing as Japanese forces have to leave North Korea. And this happens. And then South Korea's in chaos. With naval superiority by China. But the Vietnam front doesn't go so well, with India prepared for a war on two fronts. They push in. And they take over territory. And they push into Pakistan. They push into China, slowly into Tibet. And they push into China. They have the advantages of this war. The Vietnam campaign being attempted. With the single biggest defeat of this war, with Japan kind of just relaxing on its mountain. But with a plan by Japan to kick the invaders out, actually goes slightly successful against China, slightly against Russia, pushing into, what's this island? Yeah, don't know. But India has an advantage on this front, although Everai is fighting. India still manages to push into Pakistan, even taking Islamabad, which leads to the full collapse of the north. And yeah, if nukes were used, that would be a lot different. Well, Saudi Arabia is forced to leave Yemen. India pushes slightly further in China, with China accepting a peace treaty sent. With India taking over big chunks of land. But Vietnam disregards it completely. And an armistice thus fails between Vietnam and China. And Vietnam pushes north, kicking China back to the border, even encircling troops and taking them. China, at this point, desperate for peace, signs a peace treaty, which is a success for them and North Korea. Although Japan refuses a treaty with Russia, which Russia is surprised, but Japan kind of kicks them out. And yeah, now all the red wars are over. And yeah, Y is part of... Now they have Taiwan, they have everything. Oh, Japan loses Sakhalin for final. Well, somebody seen the way the world is going, but didn't know what to make of it. With authoritarianism becoming mainstream, Finland is once again put under threat. But they have coast access now, pretty good. But they have an ally that's neutral. So what are they going to do, you may ask? Something. with Russia making advances in the north along the Arctic waters. They make advances in the south, but they get no help. They still get no help. With this force encircled, they refuse to surrender. Russia encircles more forces who are refusive to surrender. They push in here. And these refusive troops, after Finland is fully ready with all of its civilians and its underground bunkers, they make a counteroffensive. They kick them out of here. They almost completely kick them out of the south. Before Russia sends more forces in. Mostly so they can gain more land. But their advance gets slowed to as slow as it can go. A 4, yeah. And they push on multiple fronts. But due to Finnish fierce resistance for the second time, they kind of do this. And in the north, they do that. And with this happening, with Russia completely losing lands here, the Russian invasion starts falling to pieces. But there's one more thing that happens. With Russia anxiously wanting land, so it's not a complete loss, they do that with them then sending a peace treaty, which Finland accepts, fearing that they have no choice. And now Finland is forced to be a Russian ally. But that's not that bad in this universe. Think of it. The world power, like the leader of the world, your ally. Yeah, that's pretty great. Well, China's leader of this world. You have to accept that. Russia does quickly, because China became a world power. But now Iran is a problem. With South America and Central America, calm like always. Somewhere something does happen. A big border change. East African Federation. Unification of the East African Federation. The world's borders change once again. With the Moscow-backed team, Moscow wants more land. And they declare war on pretty much all of their neighbors. And why does Kazakhstan have one border? That's odd. While Iran starts setting its eyes on the Middle East, Russia becomes the biggest threat of this world. Yeah, but they don't do anything more. And they push down towards Iran with asking for Iranian equipment to help them. So then they make a naval landing there. Forces are allowed to push out of Iran into Turkmenistan. With Turkmenistan not expecting this, then comes the invasion of Kazakhstan, with forces headed straight to Astana, which they take it quickly, relatively quickly. Yep. Well, this is what relatively quickly happens. The north area, there is a lot of Russians in this area of Kazakhstan, and they push up. With them able, if worst case scenario comes, and they make naval landings across Kazakhstan's coast on the Caspian Sea, cutting Kazakhstan off from the Caspian Sea, which is bad. And then this happens. And then, well, you know what happens? They speed up their invasion. They send basically 50,000 forces in, and there's no one opposing them besides India and Japan, but Japan doesn't do anything because of what happened. Well, Japan is just happy they're still alive. And well, with all these annexations, Russia's becoming the biggest threat to the world. But then, hey, I just got word. The Renaissance Dam was completed. It's a sign between Russia, China, and friends. It's called the Moscow Pact. which Finland joins, Yugoslavia joins, Iran joins, not Mongolia, China joins, North Korea joins, our new lands. Yeah, strong pact, but there's still pro-democracies left, who decided to form collectively the Democratic Treaty Organization. Fine, they don't. But they do form the Auckland Pact, is what they call it. With India, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines join, Malaysia joins, Pakistan joins, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh joins, but nobody else joins. And this is where a big war breaks out due to the Renaissance Dam completion with Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, Somalia, and Djibouti getting forced into a joint invasion of Ethiopia. But the East African Federation joins, mostly to put an end to this. Some of their close allies join, such as Zambia. But there's one problem. Ethiopia has its military completely prepared and even gets support from the Auckland Pact. And so much support, the other team starts getting a bit of support, but it's all right after the other team was completely mobilized. Yeah, this is a darker color. So basically this happens. But while that did happen, they made some gains up in the north, which go fast. But this is because they weren't prepared in the north. And they take over these lands. The East African Federation starts mobilizing its troops. And, well, they do a sped up mobilization, which they basically just throw them in at the enemy. And, well, they basically push up against. And against. And against. And against. And then they kick them completely out, with Egypt worried about a failure. They bombed the Renaissance Dam, which was a very bad idea. You want to know why? They flooded everything. They basically flooded all of their north. All of this. And a bit of this. To a military standpoint, but quickly. While the floodwaters are running up the Nile, ravages all the population. This thus allows Ethiopia to make some surprisingly fast advances, because the military was almost completely destroyed or is moving to see family from the flooded land. So basically, they're screwed. And well, quickly Sudan falls. Egypt thought it was a good idea. Although everybody in Ethiopia is in the dark, basically. They almost get to Egypt when Egypt leaves the war, which very much frustrates Sudan, who leaves the war, but while the treaty is waiting to be signed, they declare war on Egypt and blame them for their loss, which goes surprisingly well because they send their troops. In Egypt, the traitors gave what they basically were forced into doing. Yeah, they traitor. You know what happens when you're a traitor? Expect it to happen, too. Well, they still take land from them, but they're more nice than they were going to be. with Sudan taking a nice big chunk out of Egypt. Everyone's happy except Egypt, but at least they don't need to pay war reparations. Well, you know who does? No one, because they don't want war again. Who even wants war? No one. And why is Yemen's island in this war? Don't ask me. With one more thing going to happen before the end of today's video, which I'd assume would likely happen. Iran expansion. But actually, Israel stays neutral in this because there's no one going to support them if they get involved. But they do hope. But they basically just get slapped around. Well, this is like not long after America disappears and everybody's killing each other. Everyone else on this continent decides to chill. But let's go to Asia, where the final war breaks out. The war to end all wars. No, I'm kidding. Well, they did say World War I was the war to end all wars, but that was a load of propaganda for breakfast. But little does Iraq know, Iran declares war on them, declare war on these countries, Jordan. But Israel stays neutral, and they even invade Yemen, who tilted towards Saudi Arabia since the break of the... But Iranian forces push in. They even cut across towards Syria. Yep, the axis of resistant nations allow their troops to pass through. And yeah, Jordan wasn't prepared. And, well, the Houthis help Iran. Are the Houthis bad? Nobody knows. But they do help Iran. And, well, it's basically a war. And, well, yeah, basically a war. It is a war. It's total war. Well, someone's going to stabilize the Middle East. It's not going to be who you would think would try. Iran now controls like 90% of the oil, I just realized. And yeah, they take it over. And well, Saudi Arabia wants peace, but Iran says no. I think the reason the West sunk was because of the oil, producing less oil. Like, think of it. The West sinks, the East rises. Makes sense. But not everywhere. And, well, the peace treaty will be signed. Iran annexed huge chunks of land. Saudi Arabia, Jordania, Oman, and Yemen become a part of the Moscow Pact. I think that's what I called it. Yeah. And, well, Finland is also a part of it. So, well, it looks like authoritarianism now rules the waves. So, thank you for viewing. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Why should you subscribe? We're at 46 subscribers. It would be helpful if I could get 50. So I can make my 50 subscriber special. And if you could subscribe, that'd be great. And that's all for today's video. Wild Mapper out.